We have breaking news that all the way in Gabon has witnessed yet another coup d'etat in a space of 3 months. A group of senior Gabonese military officers appeared on national television in the early hours of Wednesday and said they had taken power after the state election body announced President Ali Bongo had won a third term.
Au nom du peuple gabonais et garant de la protection des institutions, avons décidé de défendre la paix en mettant fin au régime en place. À cet effet, les élections générales du 26 août 2023 ainsi que les résultats tronqués sont annulés. Les frontières sont fermées jusqu'à nouvel ordre. Toutes les institutions de la République sont dissoutes.
Now, there, of course, were tensions running high amid fears of unrest after Saturday's presidential, parliamentary, and, of course, legislative votes, which saw Ali Bongo, seeking to extend his family's 56-year grip on power, announced as winner amid controversies. The election lacked the presence of international observers, the suspension of some foreign broadcasts, and authorities' decision to cut internet service and impose a 9-time curfew nationwide after the poll. And some of these things, of course, had raised concerns over the transparency of the electoral process.
Mr. Bongo came to power when his father Omar died in 2009. In 2018, he suffered a stroke which sidelined him for almost a year and led to calls for him to step aside. The following year, a failed coup attempt saw mutinying soldiers sent to prison. Now, here's some very important facts to note. In 2019, a failed coup attempt was put down by 10:30 a.m. on the 7th of January, while President was receiving treatment in Morocco. The Gabon's Gendarmerie Intervention Group assaulted the radio television Gabonese in which the pro-coup forces were holed up. 2 pro-coup soldiers were killed in the assault. That's the update that we have for you all the way from Gabon. We've talked about it. The elections just got concluded. The Gabonese Election Center said Bongo had secured 64.27% of the vote, compared with 30.77% for his main challenger, Albert Ondo Osa, after a process set by the Lees, a process that the military has referred to as fraudulent, and as a result have stepped in to overthrow what is maybe what is not really democracy as it should be.
Yeah, but you know, I think it's also important to mention that it's not necessarily the military's responsibility to always step in whenever they feel like democracy, you know, is not being done correctly. So we should, of course, as always, at every time condemn military coups, condemn military's involvement in government and the likes. But it's really just putting into perspective what may have played out in Gabon and what really might be playing out across Francophone Africa. And I said earlier that for many, many years, for decades even, that some of these countries have had presidents seemingly imposed on them with sham elections and with the subjugation of the will of the people through democratic means in many ways. And of course, these have been done with the aid of the Western, backers, mostly France, that have kept these people in office because of what these countries are benefiting from, these African nations that have remained poor and have a large number of the poorest people in the world. These things have happened for many, many years, and at some point there would be a breaking point, and it might just be what we are seeing across Africa. Right. People will, of course, project and say, oh, it might be, of course, foreign factors, Russia and the likes. But at the same time, let's look at the human angle, and that is the fact that people are tired of seeing these persons hold on to power for that long. Omar Bongo, like I said before, had been president for 42 years. He died in 2009, and his son took over. Exactly. Then took over, as president and has been president for the last 14 years. Just, of course, gave himself victory in another elections, from what it seems, to rule the country for another 7 years, which would have kept him in power, indefinitely. And it looks like, and from what it seems like, in the next 7 years, or after this term is over, there would be another elections again, and he probably would have kept himself in office again for another long time. And so, at some point, the people will get tired. The military, of course, at this point has stepped in. Condemnable, we will say it over and over and over, but it's hard to see these things happen. And and once again, it sheds more light on the fact that democracy and the way that it is done in many African countries is a sham. And the idea that people have, you know, the power and the right to decide who leads them and who governs them is a sham also, because they don't really. The electoral processes, the judiciary, the media, and all of those things are all engineered to work against the people. And, you know, you eventually realize that for many, many years, all you're living in these countries is a fake idea of democracy, the will of the people and all that. But it's really not the will of the people.
Absolutely.
And so as much as we condemn coups, we must understand some background through which these things are happening. What is ECOWAS going to do? What is the AU going to do? What is France going to do? I saw a story this morning about, I think it was in our news headlines this morning, where the French President Emmanuel Macron is saying that he still chooses Bazoum and, of course, you know, supports, you know.
So what influence or what rights do you have to choose a president over a country that is not your country? Some people are pointing fingers at France because a number of the countries that have had to, you know, experience a coup are former French colonies, right? Yeah. And in the past 3 years, we've had about 8 of these countries experience some form of a coup. So the question is, what role is France playing in all of this? And it's important to also ask what the bodies, the AU, the ECOWAS, what role they are going to play now, especially judging by what happened in the Niger coup, how very publicized it was, how very ready they were to step in with the military. Yeah. Is that something that we're going to be seeing here as well? The military did explain that there were a number of factors. In fact, during the elections, foreign media was not allowed to step into the country to cover the elections. So many things that were, you know, so many wrongs bedeviled that election. Yeah. So the military decided that they are, quote unquote, protecting the peace of the people of Gabon. The people that hired, like you mentioned, when you push people to the wall, there's only how far, there's only as far as they can go. At some point, the people will revolt. And if we don't give people a better quality of life, a better quality of governorship, we will still see more coups, unfortunately, on the continent.
Unfortunately. All right.